Hello, my dazzling divas. My name is Heather and welcome once again to the Myth Rose channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about clothing sizes. So everybody knows that clothing sizes are a bitch. Whether you're thin, thick, medium, short, tall, or average, they just don't make any sense. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason for them, and when you do find something that fits one part of your body, it never seems to fit the rest. And women's clothing is particularly notorious for this. Now, you may already be aware that this problem indeed has no good reason to exist. There is a lot of good content out there about the history of clothing sizes and how they affect our psyche, which is why I'm just going to briefly touch on those. The real meat of this video is going to be a brilliantly laid out argument convincing anyone who even glances at the thumbnail that we should indeed return to an era of exclusively custom size clothing. A long, long time ago, way back at the beginning of the 19th century, the Napoleonic Wars created a huge demand for the mass production of clothing, specifically men's uniforms. And that was the beginning of mass-produced clothing and clothing sizes. Before that, clothing was made for one specific person, one piece at a time. So by the end of the 19th century, most people had made the switch to ready-made clothing. This new way of making clothes made the clothing cheaper and totally revolutionized shopping, but it also created a new way for women to assess their bodies, and it made it easier for us to compare ourselves to each other. Of course, if you're gonna make clothes for everybody without taking everyone's specific measurements, you're gonna need some kind of sizing system. So in the 1940s, the US Department of Agriculture conducted a survey with a very small and racist sample size of women. They paid 15,000 women to be measured. Being paid attracted a lot of women from lower socioeconomic status who were often thin due to malnourishment. They also refused to take any measurements of women of color. This was obviously very problematic, so in 1958 they decided to add to the sample size women from the Air Force, who were also all white and all thin. The reality is, though, that no matter how diverse a sample size we had, we would never be able to make clothes that fit everyone well. Humans, especially women, are just too varied in size and shape. Fun fact, some people believe that the appearance of dieting culture and diet foods for sale in the 1960s is directly or indirectly related to these inadequate clothing sizes from this survey. Isn't that just great? If we had custom sized clothing this whole time, we might not have diet culture. We wouldn't feel bad about sizes. Feminism might be years and years ahead. I bet you there's some parallel universe where this never happened and people just like wear clothes that fit them, or everyone just wears togas still. And, we don't have these dumb problems. And obviously, as in many cases, if it's bad for women, it's probably okay or great for men. This is no different. So this same survey was not done for men for a couple reasons as far as I can tell. First of all, before mass production, men took their clothes to male tailors, and male tailors had a tendency to write pattern drafting books. So there was a lot of information available about the size and shape of men's clothes. Women generally took their clothes to seamstresses, who were also women, and they did not write books. I don't know why. Perhaps it's because it was inappropriate for them to write books, or perhaps it was because they had a second full-time job, which was taking care of their children. Also, a lot of women made their own clothes, so these records were available for men, but not women. So these standard sizes are actually still the official standard sizes in the States. But in 1983, brands decided to ditch them, which I think would be a good thing. However, that just gave way to vanity sizing. In a 1937 Sears catalog, a size 14 dress fit a woman with a bust measurement of 32 inches. In 1967, a woman with a bust measurement of 32 inches fit a size 8. And in 2011, she was a size 0. And that's vanity sizing for you. You take one pair of pants, and over the years, the pants stay the same physical size, but the size number gets smaller and smaller and smaller. until it's literally 0 or double 0. And who knows, next year it'll probably be -5. Vanity sizing, keeping women confused and frustrated since 1983. So why do this, other than to make us feel mentally unstable and keep mental health care professionals employed? Well, it's because we put so much emphasis and so much of our self-worth into that number in the clothing that when we go to the store and we fit into something smaller than anticipated, we're actually more likely to buy it. Vanity sizing is an elaborate and cruel marketing scheme. This phenomena of human psychology that these brands are exploiting is called compensatory self-enhancement. The tendency to evaluate oneself more positively in one domain after receiving negative feedback in an unrelated domain. For example, when a woman is called a bimbo, she's being called both unintelligent and beautiful at the same time. She'll feel bad about being called unintelligent, but she may feel disproportionately good about being called beautiful because she was called unintelligent. Appearance and intelligence are not related. Finally, why we should return to custom-sized clothing. Wouldn't it be great to live in a world where all the clothes were made to fit and made well, and we took care of them? We knew how to get out stains, and stitch up rips, put patches on things, turn them into something else when we got bored. All right, reason number 1 we should go back to custom-sized clothes: sustainability. The fashion industry creates a lot of waste. Cloth from cutting out patterns, wastewater and chemicals from textile manufacturing and dyeing, and dead stock. Clothes that didn't sell and are now garbage. And probably a lot of other ways too. Online shoppers routinely order several sizes of one piece to make sure they get just one that fits. And disposable clothing doesn't need to fit that well. People will often buy cheap clothes that don't fit well and wear them maximum a few times. A return to custom-sized clothing could address all these problems and more. Manufacturers switching from a cut-to-order model to a cut-to-stock would save a lot more cloth and clothing. There would be no need to order multiple sizes when shopping online because there'd be no sizes to choose from. Customers would be forced to pay more for each piece, but that means we would also demand higher quality clothes that last longer. Okay, reason number 2, psychology, or better mental health. We would be free to get rid of sizes. You wouldn't have to deal with them anymore. And this in turn would hopefully alleviate some of our need or compulsion to compare ourselves to each other, simply because comparing a list of measurements is a lot harder than comparing one size number. Our clothes would fit really well and we wouldn't have to try on 100 pieces to get that. Your wardrobe would be a much more personal thing. All the clothes in it would be made especially for you, perhaps even by you. And when clothing manufacturers are making each piece to order, there is a lot more room for other customizations. Your wardrobe would be a lot more unique. Using fashion to express yourself in your own unique way would be a lot more practical. And I really think that taking the time to learn how to measure yourself and knowing your measurements is an important step to body awareness, which is an important step to body positivity or neutrality. We know that knowing your size is basically impossible. And even if you do, it means absolutely nothing. If you learn to measure yourself, you can't help but become aware of your measurements and your body proportions. This can be a difficult process for some people, but if it leads you to clothes that fit you well and help you feel good and beautiful in your own skin, those numbers can lose their negativity. And finally, technology. This is possible now. We originally made the switch to mass-produce clothing so manufacturers could become more efficient and grow their businesses. We now know that growing the economy is not the only thing we should be worrying about, and we now have the technology to efficiently clothe everybody in custom-sized clothing. We have software that can aid designers in visualizing their designs and bringing them to life, adjust patterns to different measurements in the matter of seconds, machines to cut fabric in the most efficient way possible, body scans that create 3D models for the best fit ever, online shopping, and global shipping. Imagine with me for a minute, sometime in the near fashion future, clothing stores are a thing of the past. Instead, you find a design you like online, and then you take it to your local tailor. They have a huge selection of fabric for you to choose from. You choose your design, you choose your fabric, you choose any alterations, you give your measurements, pay, and then in a couple of days, your perfectly fitting clothes are waiting for you on your doorstep. That would be awesome. So what's your ideal fashion future? Share with us in the comments. We'd also love to hear any stories of fitting room fiascos and your thoughts on clothing sizes. Remember to subscribe to the Mythros channel for more discussions, tutorials, and inspiration. Thanks for watching, and sew you later.